Okay. Welcome back to Hanging with Mangg. We're just gonna do a little solo Helldivers here.
Every sector in the galaxy must be purged of the alien menace. Every mission brings us one
solo.
to the full democratization of the known.
Playing solo against bots, like the anti-material rifle. Just such a cool experience. I mean, I like playing Helldivers a lot with friends. I think that's where the game really shines. But yeah, I don't know. There's just something about like the scout sniper play style here. Put on like the Doom soundtrack as usual. Just good, man. Just good stuff.
Telepod launch initiated.
Yeah, but I really haven't been playing too many games though. Outside of Magic Realm. It's crazy. It's crazy to me. The game that has just captivated my attention. Is a Java, digital version made in the 2000s of a board game from the 70s. But it's just so good. So freaking good. And I'm not alone. I think Magic Realm, if you could just like implant knowledge of it, like of all the rules and stuff, into every board gamer's mind, it would be far more popular.
Found something.
I mean, obviously the problem is the rules complexity and just kind of how easy it is to bounce off of it. With like its 200-page rule book, and not only a 200-page rule book, but also, it's formatted like a legal document. It's like section 4.2.3 B1, and then it's like an exception to a rule that comes up like 0.3% of the time you play the game. That's Magic, bro. But like, Lego is not a board game player, like at all. He's never gonna play a board game. He has no interest in board games. He's never gonna play TTS even or anything like that.
Fire in the hole!
But you give him Realm Speak as like a digital version. Walk him through it. And he's gonna have a blast. And that's what we did last night on Two Brothers Play. We played like 5 hours of Magic Realm. I mean, that was really funny because like we actually started on Saturday. Because he was like, what are we gonna play tonight? And I had just only been playing Magic Realm, so I was like, oh, well, we can play Magic Realm. And of course I didn't think that he would go through with that at all, because it's a board game. and you could tell that he was like a little hesitant.
Not a nice cup of liver.
I'm like, well, you know, we could do like an hour of Secrets of Grindia and an hour of Magic Realm just to see, you know, they just try it for like 45 minutes. If you don't like anything you're hearing or seeing, you know, obviously we leave it at that. And then yeah, Saturday we did like an hour of Secrets of Grindia, and then we tried Magic Realm for like an hour or so, and he had a lot of fun in that hour, and so he wanted to do more Saturday, which I was very surprised to hear. And then we did 5 hours on Saturday, and he's still enjoying it to the point that he wants to do it again on Wednesday. So yeah, Magic Realm, pretty good stuff.
Fire in the hole!
But it's absolutely one of those things where it's just so much easier to get into if you have someone teaching you. I really can't like overstate how tricky it was for me to learn how to play Magic Realm just on my own. And I didn't just sit down and read the rule book. There's actually a little side game that somebody made up called MR Light 30.
Delivering payload.
Which is basically there to just like
Have a taste of democracy!
simplify the whole game down to its basic concepts to make it easier to learn. And even that was just like kind of tricky to wrap my head around. Magic Realm is just so different from any other game in existence. It's like yeah, but it's good. It's good. So yeah, we'll be playing that again on Wednesday. We're gonna try out Super Realm together, and hopefully I get my physical copy of the redesign in at some point, and then I can play with friends. That'll be a lot of fun. Anyways, enough Magic Realm talk. So yeah, well, I have been recording a bunch of Magic Realm videos, but I really don't have any plans to upload them at the moment. Just because I know it's probably not the most interesting thing to watch, and not the most interesting thing I could upload. I've also been recording more Astalon, so it does not seem like those videos are the most popular. I don't think people are too interested in Astalon, but it is what it is. And we've got Gloomhaven, Crimson Scales still going on, and this week is Dragon's Dogma 2. And I will be recording that. So, hopefully that's good. And that's pretty much the plan for this week. Over on the Exploring series, put out a video on the armaments of the Necron, which did okay, I think. Not amazing, but okay. And I worked on a video, an SCP video, another apocalyptic one about civilizations on other planets that get a little too advanced and suddenly they all kind of collapse. That was a fun SCP. And then next week back to 40K. And then the following week will be an SCP-8000 entry. I believe it's going to be the DJ Cactus one.
Mission at 30 minutes remaining.
And all should be well. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Solo role manging this week was basically just combat, really. We went looking for the tomb that we wanted to find, and pretty much I ended up in a swamp with a random encounter against a couple giant serpents, and there were just two of us, level 3 versus two giant serpents, level 4. We were kind of outmatched. And unfortunately, Jesus.
That's called democracy!
We were kind of outmatched, and unfortunately, my female companion now, Brianna, got quickly snatched up by one of the snakes, coiled up. And my portal spell did not cooperate. My rolls were really abysmal. So, in the end, like, Brianna got some broken ribs, nearly died. I eventually teleported the snake that was holding her up into the air along with her, and I then had to fly up and try and grab her, and then failed, so then I had to, like, make another portal to get her to safety on the ground. It was quite disastrous. She survived, but, you know, it was close there. And so we killed one snake, because obviously it fell 240 feet. But the other snake lived to tell the tale. And we went back and we, like, rested for 5 days or something. And then I'm like, alright, fuck this. Let's hire some sellswords, go back, kick that snake's ass. So we hired 4 sellswords, went back to the swamp, just trounced that serpent, who then fled before we could actually finish him off.
Delivering payload. Eagle 1 rearming. Feedback
Found
shortly.
something!
And then, yeah, we pretty much found the entrance to the tomb, and that was the whole session. Not super eventful, not super exciting, but I mean, it was kind of exciting. Anytime you have harrowing combat where you nearly die is fairly exciting.
Enemy tactical asset within range.
Where are you going? Where are you going, Hellbomb? What is that? Now where are you going?
Hellbomb request approved.
Oh, that's questionable.
Hellbomb armed! Clear the area!
So had I done it the way I used to do it with just theater of mind combat, we probably would have gotten further rather than me setting up the whole grid and doing it like turn by turn. Didn't even get it. Okay, set up another Hellbomb. Quit bouncing, you fuck!
Super Earth's finest, back in action.
Hellbomb.
That's nowhere near anything!
Hellbomb armed!
Crazy thing, I'm not gonna set it off. Just get the Hellbomb. So that's... So next time then, yeah, no, we're just, What the fuck? Where, what? This is just bugged. It, like, doesn't want to land here. But you need it to land nearby, otherwise it doesn't do shit. Okay, fine. Oh, God, how many Hellbombs do you want me to call in?
Hellbomb request approved.
Okay, that might do it. Can't see. Fuck. Fuck.
Hellbomb armed! Clear the area!
God. That'll do it.
Automaton facility destroyed.
So, that was that. As for my family D&D session, yeah, it didn't seem like they learned any lessons from the last session. You know, the last session, they had kind of just stomped up to the castle with, they knew had all the goblins in it, and they just kind of, they did sneak in the side, but then they just stomped through the center of the castle. It's just, they never consider the logic of anything. They're very, gamist, I guess is what you would say, rather than, like, simulationist. I'm very simulationist. This, for me, is meant to be a simulation. So, you know, physics are meant to work the way that physics would work. Biology generally is meant to work like biology. People are meant to react in general the way that a person would react to things. So on and so forth. But if you play D&D from a gamist perspective and you treat it like a board game or a video game,
Mission at 20 minutes remaining.
you're going to go into it with a very different approach.
Have a taste.
And then when things don't work the way that you expect,
Throwing
you know, it's like, well, what the hell? You know, if you treat it like a board game, I guess, yeah, if you treat it like a board game, things can come off as very unfair to you, because it's like playing a board game without knowing all the rules, essentially. So in this case, in the last session, they stomped through the castle. And then they got basically utterly ambushed, you know, by all the goblins at the end. They were just kind of waiting for them because they heard them trouncing through the whole place. And to them, it's kind of like unfair, or it feels unfair, because they didn't think about it from a logical, you know, perspective. It's like they weren't informed of the rules that, oh, you know, we didn't know that we were meant to go through sneakily, stealthily, so that they didn't hear us coming. It's like playing Gloomhaven, and suddenly you walk through like 2 empty rooms, and the third room is just filled with all the enemies, because you didn't do something properly. You weren't stealthy enough, or, you know, something like that. And it's just, you didn't know the rule. And I would be fine with that argument for them if they were now like, oh, okay, now we know. Except they don't learn those lessons, you know?
Another one bites the dust.
So I've said it before, and I think it's still true, that many or certain members of the group here would probably be just as happy, if not happier sometimes, just playing like a board game, like playing Descent or Gloomhaven, or, you know, any one of the other similar dungeon crawlers, Madara, or, you know, just something where all the rules are known. You know, there's no gotcha moments, really.
Found something.
There's no like, oh, you didn't know that, dumbass, this is what you get. You know, there's nothing like that. It's all pretty much known information of how the rules function. But you get tactical combat on a grid, turn-based, which is often what they really like and what they want to do.
Fire in the hole.
But there are members of the group that do really like the D&D aspects. They like the characters and the conversations and, you know, the stories that can come up that are unique to us playing D&D. I mean, we're not playing D&D, but you know what I mean. And it's sort of rough for me as a DM because I don't want to run a game that's really just like gamey, you know, and also really just kind of like coddling and easy. And like, I think some of them would be very happy just like stomping every single encounter they come across and never having really any challenge whatsoever. Maybe just like a faint illusion of challenge they would be happy with. But really, they win every battle. No one ever dies. You know, there's definitely members that would be happy with that.
Critical stratagem available.
Which is just weird and wrong to me. I'm sure there are D&D groups out there like that. Like, if you play with kids or something, it's like your kid's first game. Like, obviously, you're not going to challenge them too much. And it's probably going to be somewhat whimsical. I mean, there's different approaches to take with kids, I guess. Whereas I lean a bit more towards like OSR of just, yeah, there's horrible, horrific things out there that will have no qualms about slaughtering you. And you can go on there, you can take them on if you want. Nothing will stop you from taking them on, but you got to come in prepared if you want to survive and win. Because that makes the victory so much sweeter. And that's kind of what I do with, yeah, that's kind of what I do with the Heroes Adventure solo RPG I'm doing. I'm just like, there's a big world here, and I can interact with it however I want to. And sometimes I'll go into a dangerous area and I'll roll a random encounter, and it just is whatever the random encounter is. Killed by Mangg. Sure. You know, like the two giant serpents. I didn't know I was going to be fighting two giant serpents. There's no... I'm not checking for challenge rating or anything like that. It's just that there's two giant serpents here.
Orbital barrage. Clear the area.
Jesus Christ. And I could have probably won. I obviously was not very clever against the giant serpents. I certainly was a little cocky. But there's a world where I certainly could have won that fight. And there's certainly a world where I could have been just obliterated and died. Death is obviously always a concern. And that's kind of, you know, the game that I like to run, where death is always a possibility and a concern, but can be avoided, you know, with some cleverness, some logical thinking, and maybe a little bit of luck. So, I don't know. I think most people, like, if you asked online, probably say, like, the group kind of has to fit the DM, unless someone else wants to step up as the DM. Yeah, I don't know. But anyways, so you know, they went back to Phandalin. They went back to town after surviving the castle. They didn't fully explore the castle. They were just too beaten up to want to go ahead with that. So they went back to Phandalin.
Say hello to the master!
And
You may proceed to extraction when ready.
you know, they had one character die last time, so I thought this would be a good opportunity to introduce the new character, because there's a local gang that they've heard about, the Red Brands, that they want to deal with. And the Red Brands all hang out at this slummy tavern. So I thought they'll enter town and they'll see this new character being kind of harassed and hassled by the Red Brands. The thing is, like, the encounter in the written thing calls for like 4 Red Brands to just be sitting there and hassling people. But they are a group of like 8, or like there's 5 player characters now. We lost 1. There's 5 player characters. They have their little goblin, so that's 6, and then they have a wolf companion, so that's 7. There's 7 combatants on their side. And so the group wasn't having it. You know, they were like, you know, who the fuck are you? Get the fuck out of here. You know, talking to the Red. They didn't say that, but they were not intimidated by the Red Brands because there's only 4 of them. They're not gonna be intimidated like that. And so I did a morale roll for the 4 Red Brands to see if they just like were stupid enough to start fighting here, or if they were gonna back off. And they ended up backing off. And the group's standing there, like, discussing what to do next, and they want to go to the store, and blah, blah, blah. They introduce themselves to this new character. And then, yeah, they turn to go continue down the street, go to the store, and that's when I'm like, alright.
Extraction is
They didn't finish up with the Red Brands, and they kind of humiliated these 4. So, one of the characters just gets like a crossbow bolt in the back. And then they turn, and now they see like 7 Red Brands or something that are all standing there, weapons drawn, ready to go. Because obviously there were a few more inside the tavern where they all hang out.
Roger.
So they got into a big brawl in the street, and they killed all the Red Brands, of course, because they're kind of hard to stop at this point. Heroes of Adventure is not that old school. I mean, the characters are kind of superpowered, akin to like D&D. One of the characters is a warrior with like a big sword.
T-minus 1 minute, 30 seconds.
And so he's got this ability, Great Cleave, where he can hit everything around him with 1 attack roll. And a lot of the basic mooks, you know, in like at early levels have like 5 HP or something like that, or 10 HP. So he can often just like kill them or nearly kill them.
ETA T-minus
It's
1.
quite powerful, and he has the Second Wind passive ability that lets him do twice as many encounter abilities each encounter. So he rushes in and Great Cleaves everything to great effect. And that's just kind of the thing, as we'll see.
T-minus 30 seconds.
Of just like, again, kind of going back to,
ETA
what was it?
T-minus 20 seconds.
Well, the Quantum Ogres or whatever. I'm just kind of like how this isn't. It's not a board game. Like it's not a. This is kind of a cultivated experience. So, you know, had there been... I mean, for me, when I'm playing solo, you know, weekly now, I just roll with whatever it is. You know, I deal with whatever comes my way. If I end up rolling a random encounter and it's a dragon or something like that, like, fuck it, it's a dragon. I gotta deal with this. But that's because I'm experienced and I'm cocky. And that's just kind of the old school way to do it. But for most people, and for like this family game I'm running, if there were only 2 characters for the campaign, you know, they would have bumped into maybe 3 or 4 red brands, and that would have been like the encounter. And then the red brands would have been pretty intimidating. Probably. And if they would go into a dungeon, you know, it'd be kind of scaled to the fact that there's 2 of them. Just because, you know, I want to give them a reasonable encounter that they can handle. With their blundering ways and without being too clever, you know? But the fact that there's like 7 of them, and actually now they hired another adventurer NPC, so that's an 8th character that they just want, like, supporting them, and they're giving him a share of the treasure. I don't know why they felt the need to hire this guy. They're insanely overpowered already. But I guess because they keep, like, being near death. They just feel the need. It's like, maybe you should reevaluate your tactics rather than just adding more numbers. Because all the numbers are going to do is just make me, on my side, add more numbers. And why do you want to just get into a numbers game instead of thinking cleverly? Like, as a DM, I'm going to reward creativity. I'm not going to reward you just amassing an army to go into every dungeon. That's not clever. You know? So that, yeah, they hired another adventurer, gave him a share of the treasure, and they hired 2 sellswords as well.
Ready for another mission, Helldiver?
So they got a couple guys just with like leather armor and long swords. So now going into a dungeon, there are 10 of them. And it's just like... Again, I think they're hoping that there's just static numbers. That there's going to be 3 red brands in a room or something like that, because that's what there is. And they'll just be able to pummel them into red mist and, you know, celebrate afterwards. It's like, does that... I mean, it just seems so weird to me, like, that sounds fun to people. But I don't know. I think if I asked them, they'd probably say yes. And they also heard talk of, like, there being orcs raiding nearby, and they wanted to just go straight to the orcs, and they were like, oh, the red brands, we beat them up, they're no problem. But I tried to emphasize through some of the other NPCs that, like, oh, you know, obviously there's more red brands, and now they're going to be even more aggressive, and they're probably going to come after you guys, and so on and so forth. You know, obviously they're, like, staying at the inn. The innkeeper's certainly worried about retaliation now that they're staying here and they just killed a bunch of red brands in the street. And so I tried to emphasize, like, you probably should finish what you started here. So they, all 10 of them then just marched up to the manor on the hill. And they went through the front door. I mean, they scoped it out, the manor from the outside quite a bit, to their credit. I mean, there's nothing really to see there. And in fact, the adventure just pretty much says, like, oh, they find the cellar, and that's where the dungeon is. And that's it. So it doesn't really give any details about the mansion whatsoever. But I was like, that's kind of lame. Let's be a little bit more exciting than that. So they step into the mansion, and of course there's rotten floorboards in the foyer right at the door that all the Red Brands know about, because they don't actually go into the mansion itself. They have like a little tunnel entrance underground. So yeah, 4 of them hit the rotten floorboards. Most of them managed to save themselves from the fall, but one fell down into the cellar nearby, where there's a few Red Brands waiting. And I'm like, okay, well, there's only 3 here according to the module. That's nothing to this group. But we have an opportunity for a little bit of an interesting thing. So while they were trying to find the cellar entrance and the stairs to go down, this character was down there by themselves. And so I thought, okay, it'll be interesting when they come down the cellar steps, they find the character with a knife to his throat, because the Red Brand snuck up. I let him roll a senses roll. She rolled badly. So that now they got the knife to their throat. They didn't hesitate though, and the only magic user in the group immediately said that he was going to use charm on the guy with the knife, holding the knife. And he rolled very well, and he charmed the guy to drop the knife and let go of it. And then the character immediately like broke free and used her knife to stab the guy. And they got into a fight, and they just obliterated the one guy that had the knife. And then the other 2 like fled. And so they were pretty cautious somewhat, but they continued on. They didn't search anything. They just followed the guys that ran through a secret door. They ended up in the cavern of the dungeon here. And in the cavern here, there is supposed to be a Nothic, which is like this telepathic, weird, descent sort of creature with a giant eye that uses psychic attacks and has claws and stuff. And so it's supposed to just be one, and I made it decently powerful, I thought, but I bumped it up to have 2 of them there instead. Really, I should have bumped it up to have like 8 of them. There should have been an entire nest of these things, because again, they just obliterated one in like half a turn, because there's so many. There's 10 of them. And you get 10 of them, like, all armed with crossbows and shit. It's just ridiculous, the amount of damage that they can do at this point. So they obliterated one, and the other one fled. Because, yeah, like, basically every combat, we have something just fleeing in terror. So, yeah. Yeah. You need to bump this up. But they continue on, and they go down some steps, and I gave them the choice of a couple doors, left or right. The left one the left one has like some bugbears in it and some goblins, and the right one is like the main Red Brand like hangout room where they all hang out. And there was supposed to be like 4 more in there, and initially I had bumped that up to like 9 or something. Like, I was like, okay. I had decided that there was about 20 Red Brands in total, which is quite high, I think, but whatever.
We must act.
So there's going to be like 9 in there, but then the 2 others fled into this room. So there's 11 in there, and they all knew that these adventurers, a whole big group of them, were coming. And the group was making no effort to be stealthy, and even if they were trying to be stealthy, there's 10 of them just clomping through a dungeon. Like, obviously every single thing in this place knows where they are at all times. Like, there's no hiding this giant group. And so one of the characters decides to listen at this door just to see if there's anything that he can hear on the other side, and he rolls a crit. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna be real generous here. Like, he can even hear all the breathing in this room. And if that's not enough, I'm going to make it even more, like, obvious. And so I'm like, okay, you hear, like, the faintest of whispers of someone saying like, you know, hush up, they're coming. Like, just setting up the perfect, like, okay, you know for a fact that there's a bunch of guys in there. And they're all waiting for you to come through. Like, I couldn't be more obvious unless I said, like, hey, be quiet. We're trying to ambush these guys that are going to come through the door. Like, what do you want from me? So their plan, again, like I set this up so that they have total control of this situation from the outside, you know? Whatever plan they can come up with. Or, if not even, like, they could just back off and be like, okay, they're waiting for us in an ambush. We should not open this door. That would be really dumb. What do? They open the door. And from what I understood, their plan was to just open the door, like, burst it open, and then have the archer just start firing arrows. So what happened was, she burst open the door, and she got hit. She didn't get hit as many times as she probably should have. But I rolled 8 attacks against her. Because there was 11 in there. 3 of them only had long swords. The rest all had hand axes or crossbows that they were throwing and firing. So I rolled 8 attacks. I think like 3 hit her. She took 10 damage. She didn't actually die, which is the astonishing thing. By all rights, she should have died. Because that is no plan. That is the opposite of having any plan whatsoever. That is just pure stupidity, as far as I'm concerned. Like, I don't even know what to do with this group anymore. And they were, like, upset. They were, like, upset that this didn't go the way they planned. Or that it didn't go the way they thought. They thought they would just surprise them and burst in. And I'm like, did you pay no attention to anything I just said? Or did you like, there's no thought. There's no thought. There's no logic. There's no thought. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know what to do with this group. Because I can't go down to their level. I cannot. I cannot run it like a board game. I cannot. I will not. I would rather stop than do that. And it's just... It's like if you were in the SWAT team or something like that. Or you were cops or something in the modern day. And you knew for a fact that there were a bunch of guys hiding out, waiting, and they knew you were coming. And they were all in this room, this dark room. And all the lights were out. This is a dungeon, like, there's no natural light or anything. So they snuffed all their lights. Because, of course, the group tromping through the dungeon has their lanterns on and stuff. So they open the door and they're fully illuminated while the room's in darkness. So it's like if the cops just opened the door and just stood there and hoped to, like, shoot into the darkness. Of course, they're just gonna get obliterated. It's insane. Is this the same mic I use for the main channel stuff? No, that it is not. The mic I use for Exploring Series is a Heil PR40. This is a Shure SM58. It's definitely a lot cheaper of a mic, but it's also a lot lighter. I just put it on a boom arm, and it gets the job done. So, I mean, astonishingly, she survived. They slammed the door back shut, and then they, like, filed out. And the funny thing was, like, they were in this hallway that was 5 feet wide. So they were, like, single file in this hallway, 10 of them. So, like, even if she tried to just, like, run away from everything that was assailing her, it's a completely cramped, flooded, crowded hallway. It was just so...
Democracy, liberty, independence, managed democracy.
And the thing is, like, I don't think they'll ever change. I don't think they'll ever learn or like, it's just, this is how they play. They expect to just open doors and kick teeth in and win and get $1 billion and 1 billion levels and save the universe. And it's just, I cannot run like that. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, again, like, they were kind of upset, but I certainly don't think I'm in the wrong. I think logically this all makes perfect sense of what happened. And they're just like, well, what would you have done? What would you have done if you were in our shoes? And I'm like, I wouldn't have opened the door. I mean, like, I would have just gone out back to the cavern and waited. And eventually, you know, they're not going to live the rest of their lives in that one room. Eventually, they're going to come out, or at least send 1 or 2 scouts out there to see what the situation is. And then you pick them apart like fucking Rambo or something. Like, you just... Yeah. Anyways, we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's rough times, though. Alright, anyways. So more Gloomhaven, more Astalon. We're going to start up almost certainly Dragon's Dogma 2 this week. We've got more solo role manging. We've got more Two Brothers Play. And on the Exploring series, I think it's 3426, I believe. Reckoner. Should be a fun one. But for now, my name is Mangg. This has been Hanging with Mangg. We'll see you fine folks next